So just a few days ago, I had my second anniversary of running this YouTube channel, SF Words of Wonder. And last year when I hit my 1 year anniversary, I did kind of a special video talking about my experience and kind of trying to encourage some other people to start a channel if it was something you might be into. And this year I got a message from Richard Rempel over at Vintage SF. Most people that watch my channel know about Richard. And him and me and John over at Sci-Fi Scavenger, we all started our channels right around the same time. We're all coming up on our 2 year anniversary, and so Richard invited us over onto his channel. So in a couple days, we're gonna film a video with Richard, and he's got some questions to ask us, and we're just gonna kind of have a discussion about the, running a YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to save all of that conversation for that channel. I have a very special book haul here. I've got 100 paperbacks that I'm going to unhaul here. A lot of these I've been kind of holding back, waiting for this video to kind of make this a special video. And it's going to take as long as it takes. I'm going to go through all of these books. I've got some pretty good ones, definitely towards the end. But before we get into that, I wanted to just say a couple things. I was going to do a life update, and yes, I'm still alive. I'm going to do a channel update. Yes, I'm still making videos. I tend to make about 100 videos a year. When I did my 1 year anniversary, I was at the exact 100th video mark. And if I would have timed this better, this could have been my 200th video, because I think it's my 202nd video. So I end up doing somehow about 100 videos a year. I really enjoy it. And I really got to thank everybody out there, because if it wasn't for the viewers and the people commenting and taking part in the discussion and giving me book recommendations, this would not be as fun as it has been. And then the last thing I want to talk about before I get into the book haul is you might notice I'm not wearing my uniform. And when I started this channel out, I really didn't intend to wear the same outfit for 2 years. I've got this sweatshirt. It was like my favorite sweatshirt at the time when I was getting ready to film my first video. And I was going to wear this hat forwards, but where I was filming, I didn't have good lighting, and the overhead lights were putting a lot of shadows on my face. So I ended up turning the hat around backwards, and instead of thinking about what I was going to wear in the beginning, I just kind of put the same thing on over and over, and we got 200 videos in 2 years of me wearing the same thing, and it was kind of fun. It was kind of silly, but I think I'm over that now. I'm just going to wear whatever I'm wearing. I might break it out for some special videos or something, to get back in uniform, but other than that, you're just going to get me from now on. So let's go ahead and get into this book haul. I've probably wasted enough time here. So the first book I got here is The Forlorn Hope by David Drake. And this is from Tor. And, I've seen so many David Drake books out there. I know he's written these massive series. And I will try him out, but this was like a standalone he wrote in 1984. It seems to be maybe on the military side. It has pretty good ratings. It might be a good place to start instead of getting into like a giant series. And so went ahead and got that. Oh, I also mention all these books I got from all sorts of different sources, from local bookstores, local thrift stores, eBay, online booksellers. I have a dealer that I've bought from for decades, and he's sort of winding down his business. And so I've been snatching up a lot of very special books from him before they're gone forever. But a lot of these first batch here I got locally. So the next one here I got is Test of Fire by Ben Bova. This is another from Tor. And I have read one book or two books from Ben Bova. I think he can scratch the right itch. I don't know if he's ever going to be like one of my favorite authors. Now we've got Doomstar by Richard Myers. And this is a kind of more modern Questar book, but it's got some pretty great cover art there for a more modern book. Got that. Alan Dean Foster, No Crystal Tears. This is a Del Rey book. I have a few from Alan Dean Foster. I've yet to read anything from him yet, but he's definitely got some really cool cover art on a lot of his books. And I think he's written a lot of big series as well. Okay, now we got The Torch of Honor by Roger McBride Allen. And this is a Bane science fiction book. Another one I haven't read anything from Roger McBride Allen, but I looked this up. It looked kind of interesting. I don't know if it's the best place to start when I get to him, but got that. So then we've got Distraction by Bruce Sterling. I have yet to read anything by Bruce Sterling yet, but I am going to be reading Islands in the Net soon. It's part of this series that I've been doing. And I know he's written a lot of kind of like cyberpunk-esque books, and really excited to get around to reading him. And then an Ian M. Banks book, Against a Dark Background, and this is from Bantam Books. I believe when I looked this up, this is a standalone. It's not a book in the his big series he wrote. What is it? The Culture. I think this is a standalone. It's still pretty thick. It's over 500 pages. But I really like the book I've read, Player of Games. So really want to read more Ian M. Banks and his non-science fiction as well. And then we got The Dragon Never Sleeps by Glenn Cook. This, I've heard Joseph from Joseph Reads Books talk about Glenn Cook a lot. And he recommended a trilogy that Glenn Cook wrote, a science fiction trilogy. I have yet to find good copies of that one, but this is a standalone. I know Richard over at Vintage SF read this recently. He said it's fairly complex. I'm not sure it's the best place to start with Glenn Cook, but the cover art for that one is fantastic. In case I forgot to mention it, this is another Quest Star in conjunction with Popular Library. So next up we got The Forge of God by Greg Bear. And I've read a couple Greg Bears so far. It's been a little hit and miss, but I was watching a video by Scott Danielson, and he was talking about the sequel and how much he liked this particular book. So this might be the next Greg Bear I go after. And that one was published by Tor. And then we've got CT by Jack Williamson. This is from Jove, and this is a collection of 2 stories that he wrote in this CT universe. So it's got CT Ship and CT Shock all in one kind of omnibus edition. And then another author I haven't read, Richard A. Lupoff. This is The Trine Man, and this is a Berkeley science fiction edition here. Haven't heard many people talking about Lupoff either, so. Now this, Riders to the Stars by Kurt Sidemak, and this would probably be higher up on my list. The reason it's kind of in this stack is it does have some damage to it. Someone tried to tape it and then the tape split. And this is a Valentine original published at 35 cents. I used to do some kind of amateur book repair, and I want to get back into that, so I might use this eventually as a candidate to try to remove some of that tape and re-glue that spine up a little bit at some point. Then we got The Day They Invaded New York. This is by Irwin Lewis, and this is an Avon science fiction. Very thin, small book. I don't know much about that one. The Pilgrim Project by Hank Searles, and this is a Crest book. This one's in good shape. This is Fawcett Crest book. Satellite E1 by Jeffrey Lloyd Castle, and this is a Bantam published book here. A lot of these are authors I don't really know much about, so if you know anything about these, let me know. On the Simp Socket Circuit by Kenneth Bulmer. And this has cover art by Kelly Freas. I have heard his name pronounced Freeze and Frias, or Frias, and I looked it up. On his Wikipedia page it says it's pronounced Freeze. I did find a video as well where someone was interviewing and talking to Frank Kelly Freas, and they were all pronouncing it Freeze, so I'm going with Freeze. And then we've got Transformer by M.A. Foster. This is a DAW, yellow spine. I don't see any Autobots or Decepticons on the cover, so I assume this is some other type of Transformer. And we got Solo Kill. This is S. Kai Bolt. Never heard anyone talk about this author. Found this one. I kind of bought it for the cover art. When I looked it up, I can't even remember if there's many reviews on that one. And then Jack Williamson, The Pandora Effect. This is by Ace Books. I read my first Jack Williamson novel recently, The Humanoids, which was really good. And want to definitely read more from him. He had a very long-standing career. I don't know if all of his work is fantastic, but I think he wrote a lot of really good stuff. And then The Psychopath Plague by Stephen G. Spruill. And this is from Dell Science Fiction. We're still in this realm of a bunch of authors I really have never heard much about. Man of Two Worlds by Raymond F. Jones. It says the original title was Renaissance, and this is from Pyramid Science Fiction. I have heard of Raymond F. Jones, probably read a short story or two, but don't know much about him. And then Alexei Panshin, Starwell. I recently read, or no, I haven't read Rite of Passage. That's the book coming up on the list of his that I'm going to be reading. This is from Ace Science Fiction. It's got this butterfly. I can't tell. I think someone put that on there. I don't think it was published like that. But it does kind of feel like it was published like that. Who knows? Okay. Non-Interference by Harry Turtledove. I have never read anything from Turtledove. I know he's written a lot of like either historical fiction or alternate histories. This is a pretty thin book. I know a lot of his are pretty long. Let me know if anyone has read Harry Turtledove and if this is a good place to start. I really want to expand and read a lot more authors that I haven't read in the past. Hence why so many of these books are from some unique authors. Gordon R. Dickson's Space Paw. I have read Dorsai, and I did like it better than I thought I would. This, though, besides the little kind of fading on the edge of the spine there, it's got a very funny cover. Then we got another by Gordon R. Dickson. This is None But Man. This is a DAW book. And at first I thought they were dancing on the cover here, but turns out they've got a couple weapons. They might be fighting, but looks like they kind of got a nice dance going as well. Then Anne McCaffrey, The Ship Who Sang. Recently read Dragonflight and really liked her writing. I love the whole premise of that. I don't know if I'm going to jump back into more Pern novels or maybe try something like this. From what I can tell, this is a standalone, more on the science fiction, although Dragonflight is very science fiction-y. And then we got another round at the Spaceport Bar. This is edited by George H. Skithers and Daryl Schweitzer. So this is from Avon Books. It had some really fun cover art. This one I got at my local bookstore for $1. I hadn't seen it there before. Robert Sheckley had a little blurb on the cover, and when I looked at the lineup in here of authors, it looked pretty great. So I went ahead and picked this up. Then I got a couple here from this. This is these Spectra special editions that Bantam put out. This is Pat Murphy, Points of Departure. Haven't read anything from Pat Murphy. And then another one of these Spectra special editions. This one caught my eye. It's called Strange Toys by Patricia Geary. And it won the Philip K. Dick Award. And so that kind of got my attention. It's got some pretty interesting cover art. I did look this up. I was pretty excited about that one. Doesn't have the best reviews, but I still might give it a shot at some point. And then Ring of Violence by Douglas R. Mason. This is an Avon book that isn't in the best shape. I have yet to really read anything by Douglas R. Mason, but he has got some of the best covers. If you Google him and look at some of the vintage paperbacks that came out for Douglas Mason, they're fantastic. Then we got The Long Winter by John Christopher. This is a Fawcett Crest book here. And haven't read anything by Christopher yet. No, he's kind of most famous, I think, for the Tripods trilogy. And then this is Randall Garrett and Vicki Ann Hadron, The Search for Ka. And this is the 5th in this series they wrote. I think I have the 1st and the 5th. So I'm missing quite a few in between, and I think there was only 5 or 6. I could be wrong there. And then Edgar Pangborn, Good Neighbors and Other Strangers. This is a Corgi book, and it's a collection of short stories. I'm not the biggest fan of Corgi, but Edgar Pangborn is someone I really want to read soon. And these collections of short stories have been a really good way to kind of introduce yourself to the range of an author. Because you might read one of their novels and not like it and kind of start to dismiss them. But short story collections are really helpful, I think, when really kind of seeing what an author can do. Now we've got this. This is another anthology, Beyond Belief, edited by Richard J. Hurley. And it's Eight Strange Tales of the Other World. This is from Scholastic Books. I've got a few of these. These are those smaller rack-size paperbacks. And this one had a pretty good lineup here, just on this page. We've even got some Clark Ashton Smith in here. A couple from Asimov, or at least one. Sturgeon, Arthur C. Clarke. So that one sounded pretty interesting. Phoenix by Richard Cowper. This is a Ballantine original paperback. It's in pretty good shape except for a little stain here on the back. It's got some kind of interesting artwork there. Another author I've not read anything from. First Step Outward. This is edited by Robert Hoskins. And this is from Dell. And I think this is the list of the stories here on the back. If you want to pause there, yeah. So a really good lineup, and I love these Dells. I think they almost always have the painted text block there. The Diamond Age by Neil Stephenson. Always mix that up. This is in pretty good shape. This is one that's on the list. I'll be reading this at some point. Another anthology from Dell called 17x Infinity, edited by Groff Conklin. And this has got the green painted text block. And a pretty good lineup of stories in this one as well. Okay, Telepath by Arthur Sellings. This is a Ballantine book here. You can guess who that is. I'm pretty sure that's Richard Powers' artwork, even though it's a bit more colorful than some of his more traditional stuff. And then another one, this is The Climacon by Harold Livingston. I think I pronounced that right. This is another from Bantam, or Ballantine. I believe this is another Richard Powers. Very odd one, though. Very cartoonish. And then we got A Thunder of Stars by Dan Morgan and John Kippax. This is another from Ballantine. Ballantine original. Nice little space scene on the front there. A Time in Advance by William Tenn. And I looked this up. I think this is 4 little short stories in here. And William Tenn, he wrote a lot of really old stuff. I have yet to read anything from him. Yeah, it's 4 stories from 1952 up to 1957. And so I got that. And then Blood World by Lawrence M. Janifer. Janifer is someone who I want to read sometime soon. And then The Best from Fantasy and Science Fiction. This is the 17th series, edited by Edward L. Furman. And there's a ton of these. I've gotten so many anthologies at this point. I need to be careful of which ones I want to try to collect all of them from. But the Magazine of Science Fiction and Fantasy put out a lot of good work, a lot of original stuff back in the day. So kind of can't go wrong if you find one of these for a good enough price. Okay, let me grab, we've got about that many more to go through, so hang on one second. All right, now we've got Worlds Apart by J.T. McIntosh, and this is from Avon Books. This is one of those smaller format paperbacks. I have read something from J.T. McIntosh. Definitely would like to read more from him. Space Lords by Cordwainer Smith. This is from Pyramid Books. This is the first printing. I had a reprint of this one, but I found this really good condition. First paperback of that one. The Third Galaxy Reader, edited by H.L. Gold. And this is a Permabooks. These are really cool. There's quite a few of these that I have now. They kind of have this ugly brown spine, but a lot of them were edited by H.L. Gold. He was the editor of Galaxy, and it's got really good lineup. There is a lot of yellowing in this one, and there's a few more on the next page. But excited to read some of those short stories. And then we got The Dark World by Henry Kuttner. This is an Ace small format book. Now, Captain Samuels recently read this one and raved about it. It's very small. It's like 125 pages, so I'm going to sneak that in pretty soon and give that a read. And then Sky Climber by Raymond Z. Galoon, or Zed as the Canadians like to say. We read that collection of short stories by Raymond Z. Galoon. It's my favorite of all the best ofs so far, and want to read more from Galoon. And then we got Charisma by Michael Coney. This is from Dell. I have read a couple from Coney, and I've loved everything I've read from him so far. A Funeral for the Eyes of Fire by Michael Bishop. This is a Ballantine book. Once again, I've read a couple from Bishop and really like his style and what he writes about. I'd eventually like to read everything that he's written. The Last Transaction by Barry N. Malzberg. This is from Pinnacle Books. And I have read Beyond Apollo, kind of collecting all of Malzberg's stuff. This was a nice find. This was R.A. Lafferty, Annals of Klepsis. And this is an Ace science fiction book. I don't see a lot of Lafferty around here, but this was at Neighboring Towns bookstore. So I'll grab that. And then I found this at our local bookstore for $3. This is Clay's Ark by Octavia Butler. And you don't see a lot of her original paperbacks out there, so I was really glad to find this. This is a bit collectible. And then Masks of the Illuminati by Robert Anton Wilson. This is a timescape, and I'm really curious about Robert Anton Wilson. I think he writes science fiction with like a conspiracy theory flair. And I've got a few of his now. I think I'm going to try to fit this in April and give that a read. And then The Pillars of Eternity by Barrington J. Bailey. This will definitely be the next Barrington J. Bailey book I read. I've read 2 from him, and he is another just wild science fiction author with a really great imagination. He can put some really cool twists on books, and probably want to eventually read everything Bailey has written too. Then we got the original paperback of A Case of Conscience by James Blish. This is the first printing from Ballantine of this one. I have read this one. I really liked it. I've liked almost everything I've read from Blish. And so I found this original paperback and really happy to have this. Another one that I recently read, To Your Scattered Bodies Go by Philip Jose Farmer. Now this is the first printing from Berkeley. You've probably seen this one around a lot. I think they reprinted it and kind of made the whole series in that color scheme. But this was the actual true first US printing of this one. So happy to have that one. It's an awesome book. Then we got a few here from Arthur C. Clarke. I recently read Fountains of Paradise, did a video with Robin from Bookspin. That was a lot of fun. And it makes me want to read more from Clarke. This is The Songs of Distant Earth, published by Ballantine Del Rey. And then we got The City in the Stars from Signet. Got some cool cover art on that one. And The Sands of Mars. And this one is from Signet as well. And then here's one that's pretty interesting. This is from McFadden Books. It's called The Six Fingers of Time. And I'll have to pop this open. I was looking for this specific book because there's a story in here that I really wanted to read. I think it was the title, R.A. Lafferty, Six Fingers of Time. But I'm also very interested in this Daniel Galouye Sitting Duck story. So there's 6 stories in this one. So interested to read that. John Wyndham, Rebirth, or Wyndham. And I believe this is the US title for the Crystalids, if I remember right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've read one from Wyndham and definitely want to read more from him. We got a couple from Isaac Asimov, The Martian Way and Other Stories from Fawcett Books. I've read most of these stories. They're classics, all short stories in this one. And then Nightfall and Other Stories. This is another one from Fawcett. I've read almost all of these as well. And then 8 Keys to Eden by Mark Clifton. I've read the Clifton book that won the Hugo that he co-wrote, and I didn't think it was that bad. I definitely want to read more from Clifton in the future. This is a very short, 150-some page book. And then Kate Wilhelm, Juniper Time from Pocket Books. I've just read one book from Wilhelm so far, and she definitely has like the literary touch on her works. Joe Haldeman, Buying Time. This is from Avon, and for being kind of a more modern, newer book, it's got great cover art and graphic design on this one. Ron Goulart, Brain Z Inc. And this is from Daw. It's a Goulart. It's got okay artwork. There's a guy kind of littering on the front there, but not as good as a lot of the other Goulart Daw books. Mark S. Gueston, Lord of the Starship. This is from Ace Science Fiction. Couple from A. Van Vogt. These are both Daw. We got Earth Factor X. Some cool cover art. And then The Battle of Forever. Some weird creatures there. Okay, Michael Swanwick, Vacuum Flowers. This is from Ace. This is a collection of short stories. I know I've read a couple short stories from him, but definitely want to check him out a little bit more. Brian Aldiss, Report on Probability A. This is from Avon Books. There was a little stretch where Avon did a lot of books like his with this kind of livery on them. Gene Wolfe, Soldier of Arit. I might have pronounced that wrong. But I did find this one locally, and Gene Wolfe is kind of hard to find these days. Couple here from Poul Anderson. We got the Night Face. I mainly got this because of the cover art. I believe that's Michael Whalen there. It's really cool. You got these creatures kind of carrying this guy. Kind of want to read it just to find out what's going on with that. And then one from Signet, There Will Be Time. Another here from Poul Anderson. He was prolific, and I've read 2 or 3 of his so far. Another author I want to read more from is Richard Matheson. This is Shock 2. This is a collection of short stories. But I really need to get Shock 1 first, and then there was a Shock 3, and then some other one they came up with after that. So I'd like to kind of read through a lot of his short fiction. Samuel R. Delany, The Ballad of Beta 2 and Empire Star. This is from Ace. Okay, now we got some from Silverberg here. We got Valley Beyond Time. And I believe this is a collection of short stories here from Dell. And we got the Dell painted text block, as always. Maybe this is not a collection of short stories. Nope, I think this is a novel. Okay. Invaders from Earth. This is an Avon from Silverberg. It's a very thin one here. Only 142 pages. Earth's Other Shadow from Signet. Shadrach in the Furnace. This is a pocket science fiction. All these were in pretty good shape. And then I got this. This is the Best of Jack Vance from Timescape. I did order this online, and when it came, it was in this like almost like a plastic film dust jacket that's folded over. And I'm not a big fan of bagging books. I do like pulling them out and checking them out and letting them breathe. And I looked these up to see if you can buy them. I think what they did is they bought these in like a roll and then folded them specifically for the size of book. It's something I might do in the future because it does kind of protect it from handling a bit, but you can still get at the book and open it up and check it out and everything. So that was kind of interesting. And then a few here from Frank Herbert. Some were, well, one's co-written. This is The Jesus Incident. He wrote quite a few books with Bill Ransom. This is from Berkeley Books. Trying to collect all of Frank Herbert's books, not just all the Dune ones, but all the other ones. So I put a pretty big dent here. We got The Godmakers. This one has me sort of intrigued. Eyes of Heisenberg, another from Berkeley. And The White Plague, and this is a thick one here, and this is also from Berkeley. Another one, you read the backs of these, they have really interesting premises. So I want to read more. All I've read is the 6 Dune books. I would like to definitely read more from him. Okay, so now we got Harlan Ellison, The Beast That Shouted Love at the Heart of the World. I did find the first edition from Avon recently. This is a later printing from Signet. I like both of the covers. I'm not sure which one I like more. I recently read his first short story collection called Ellison's Wonderland. That'll probably be the next review video that I put out on my channel. I've been someone who was kind of lukewarm on Ellison as a human and as a writer, but I got a lot to talk about on that collection, and he kind of turned me around, so be tuned for that one coming up next. And then I got this one, Camp Concentration by Thomas M. Dish. This is kind of a harder book to find these days. This is from Avon. and I've only read the one book from Dish so far. I don't know if this is going to be my next from him. I know it can be a little bit grim. Okay, now we've got 10 books from Philip K. Dick. These are all older paperbacks, and that's going to be it. So let's just get through these. So we got The Variable Man and Other Stories from Ace. This one was in really good shape. The Golden Man, which is a collection of short stories. The Variable Man is as well. And I had a really, really beat up copy of this, and then I found this one online. It was in really good, clean condition. I Hope I Shall Arrive Soon. I believe this might be short stories as well. Let's see real quick. Yeah, I think so. And then A Maze of Death. This is Paperback Library. I'm trying to get every Philip K. Dick first printing from the US paperback. He wrote a lot of books. It's a challenge, but believe it or not, I'm getting pretty close. So then we got The Martian Time Slip by Ballantine Books. So I do, in the somewhat near future, there will be a collector's corner where I go through every Philip K. Dick first edition, first printing US paperback. The Unteleported Man. This is from Berkeley. The Penultimate Truth from Dell. Once again, that painted text block from Dell. Then two of these smaller from Ace. We got the Eye in the Sky. One of those smaller rack size mass market paperbacks. The Crack in Space. This one is in really good condition for one of these older Ace books. And then the last one I got here is Flow My Tears, the Policeman Said. This is from DAW number 438. So that was it. That's 100 paperbacks. A lot of books to be reading in the near future. A lot of books to help fill up my shelves. So like I said, this was my kind of 2-year big anniversary book haul. Once again, I want to thank everybody who's watched my videos and made comments and done all that stuff that keeps a creator kind of going. So looking forward to a lot more videos in the future. And once again, thanks for watching.